Hello and welcome to today's episode of Start Being Visible. Now, my guest in today's session is an awesome lady called Zamiha Desai. Now, Zamiha refers to herself as an accidental entrepreneur. In April 2016, Zamiha started a Facebook group, RecommendAsian, as a place to share ideas, tips, and recommendations on Asian lifestyle with her friends. Now, the group launched with 219 Asian women members, and today, 7 years later, the online community has grown to over 70,000 members, and their sister group, ProfessionalAsian, which is for both men and women, has over 80,000 members. Now, both groups are focused on Asian lifestyles and affectionately referred to as the Asian Google. So basically, you can type and find everything Asian related, from advice to gifts to products and services, on both of Zamiha's platforms. Now, I wanted to bring Zamiha on the show today because of her incredible achievements building this online community. But also, on a more personal level, I wanted to talk to Zamiha about her experience of dealing with loss and grief in the public eye and what lessons that we can learn from this for our own lives. So, Zamiha, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Start Being Visible.
Oh, thank you, Mildred. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, I want to start with it. In your bio, it talks about how you consider yourself as an accidental entrepreneur. So you never intended to become a business person. So how did that journey start? How did you end up doing what you do today? Talk us through that.
So I was working at a head office of a massive retailer. I loved my job and everything. And I'd met this lady at the mosque who was wearing a sari. And I was just joking that I was 43 years old and I still didn't know how to put my own sari on. And she said that she had this gadget that was like a sari pleater. So I went and got one on Amazon, and I was like, this is life-changing, because, you know, I could do it myself in like 5 minutes. It was really easy. And I think community-wise, a lot of my community left East Africa and Uganda at the big exodus, arrived here in 71. I was born in 72. So I'm British born and bred. And we did like assimilate into the Western culture quite a lot. And I think therefore some of the traditions may have kind of got lost. And for the younger person wearing a sari, for me personally, that was one of them. And I think I know quite a lot of people that are the same age as me, same situation, you know, born and bred here, have links to the culture, but maybe not that much. And I thought, well, you know what, this is a game changer, because there are people that don't know how to, you know, wear the Eastern attire appropriately. And so I just thought I really want to tell my friends about this. So I just set up the group, and it just gained momentum quite quickly. And a few months later at my work, there was a change in management. I wasn't enjoying it as much as I did, because they'd made loads of redundancies. They'd changed the way that, you know, the corporate structure and the way they were working. And meanwhile, this group was taking up all of my free time. So I'd said to my husband that, you know, maybe I can do something with this. And he said, well, you know what, I'll support you for 6 months. Just try. If you don't succeed, go back to corporate life. So I just said, okay. So I just quit my job and put my all into it. And here we are today.
Wow. I love that. I love how your late husband was just like, just try. If you don't succeed, go back, you know, you go back into work. Because sometimes a lot of the things that's stopping people from going into their own business, especially women. I speak to a lot of women in the line of my work. So it's that fear of what if it goes wrong? What if I fail? You know, so was that kind of in the back of your mind? I know you had your husband giving you the thumbs up, but was that in the back of your mind that what if I fail? You know, did that cross your mind at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm quite a risk averse person. And so it was a big decision for me, but I mean, I guess I had that comfort blanket. Had he not been so supportive, if we were in a different financial situation, you know, maybe I would have played it differently. I think you do have your priorities. You know, I was 44 at that time then. So, you know, I had kids, I had a husband, I had things going on, had bills to pay. Luckily, his business was doing quite well at the time. So, yeah, it was a big risk for me, but cushioned by the support around me with him and with my family. So, yeah, it is a big decision, though.
Yeah. So, growing up, you never considered having your own business? Were you always did you have a set track that you wanted to go down in your career? And then this business came along by accident? Or was there in the back of your mind at some point you thought, I'd love to start a business. I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to keep working and hope it materializes at some point?
So I had never thought to start my own business, and both my parents had their own businesses. Like I said, I'm quite risk averse, and that security of that, you know, get your paycheck every month, you know how much you're going to get paid, you know what you're earning and stuff. I think that was a big plus point for me. When I had left university, I did my degree in media studies, and I'd gone into television freelancing, and I think that was like, it didn't suit me. I wasn't happy freelancing. I felt like I was always starting from the bottom every time I got a new contract. It was quite a cutthroat industry. There was just so many kind of politics and everything at that time, and there was a lot of competition as well. So I wasn't I enjoyed the work. I loved the work, but I was never confident or strong enough to just go out and kind of insist on getting better positions and stuff. I was just kind of grateful that I had something. And then I switched careers and I went into banking. So just back office, kind of more admin stuff. And I did enjoy, you know, the fact that I could go to work 9 to 5, not do like kind of, you know, 20 hours days, which you sometimes do on a film set, and just go home, go out with my friends, have a bit of a social life. Again, know where my money was coming from, you know, had the pension, had everything going on there. So, you know, it was different. But then I did find it a bit boring. Like you know, it can be a bit mundane. And I got an opportunity to go into project office, which weirdly is kind of like TV, because you've got like short series of work. You just, you know, do it till it's done. You kind of go the whole way through from inception to seeing the end product. And it's a lot of organization. Because I was in production, it was always organization. So I kind of found my groove with that, and I really enjoyed it. And then that's what I did for the next few years until all this happened.
And you said you started the Facebook group RecommendAsian, you know, and you were 43, 44 at the time. So essentially you started a brand new career in what some people would say, oh, that's a bit late to be starting a new career. Because by this point, I'm guessing you had a mortgage to pay, you know, you got kids, right? You got 2 kids, I believe it is, you know, late teens. So you had all of these kind of things going on. So did you think that you were going to succeed in that 6-month period that your husband gave you? Did you feel like, I'm going to make this work? Or was it just literally just a case of, let me try it and see how it goes? And then it just took you by surprise?
Absolutely, suck it and see. Absolutely. And to be honest, I ended up being in a little bit of debt because I didn't want to tell my husband how little I actually earned in my first year. I think in my first year I made about £3,000, which is good because I was in the black. So I'm not like, that was a good thing for a new business, I think.
How did you make that, by the way? What were you selling?
So I was selling basically advertising on the group. So people wanted to kind of market their businesses, and I had like a niche audience. So it was, you know, British, Asians, you know, the large majority of the group still is UK based. It's kind of 25 to 55. It's got a good like spending demographic, like they're in charge of their own money. They're the decision makers. So it was a good demographic, and it's quite hard unless you really know what you're doing to kind of boost ads or do any advertising on Facebook or Instagram to a particular ethnicity. So I think that was where it was. And because it was like, it started off specifically kind of Asian-ish products. So while like saris and lengas and all that kind of thing, it was always like Mendi artists or somebody that could do Asian like Bollywood style makeup, or, you know, and then it kind of grew to, you know, personal trainers that understood that you might have a particular diet, or particular food choices, and lawyers that would understand that you might have like a Sharia law or like some cultural anomalies that happen within our society. And so it was all that kind of Asian-ish stuff. So I think it was a good place for people to market their business, and that people appreciate that they're doing this, and they can preserve a side of their culture. So there's events like Diwali and Eid, and these kind of things that are very Asian and people love celebrating. But then we've also got the fusion style kind of mithai and the cakes and all that kind of stuff. So I think it just worked really well. But at that time, groups were, I wouldn't say they were new, but they were kind of up and coming. And I think Facebook had started putting a lot of emphasis on the community element of Facebook and stuff. So I think, it was quite good timing as well for me. But at that point, nobody was really charging to be in Facebook groups. Like now you get it all the time, it's like membership groups and stuff like that. But at that time, there was a lot of, why should I pay you? Because it's free. And I had to be like, well, my time's not free. I'm like investing my time into running this, into, creating engagement. And I don't think people realize how much work there is with a really good engaged community group.
Yeah. So people were paying to be members of your Facebook group, and you were selling advertising. Is that right?
No. So they were paying to be advertising members. So it was free to join, but if you wanted to promote your business, then there was a fee. And it was more like the spammy people, the people that were just kind of trying to make a quick buck. Like all the MLM businesses weren't allowed to advertise, and they're still not allowed to advertise, because it was like, it was just more of the same thing. So we could be a bit more selective. We know who the members are, where they live, what their phone numbers are, if anything goes wrong, which, to be honest, it seldom does. Then, at least we can kind of chase it up and help mediate between members. And in fact, the things that go wrong generally in the group are when people don't advertise and they kind of go in via somebody's messages and, inbox them and then don't deliver to the quality that we would hope our members would deliver to. So that's kind of where more the issues are, but our membership is like quite solid.
So it starts off in this kind of 200 to 19 people, and in the beginning it was just people you knew personally, and then I guess it kind of spread like wildfire. How did it grow so big and in such a short space of time?
Completely organically. I've never advertised it, never put any money behind it. It's always been organic, and I think at that point it's just good timing. Like it was required, it was needed. It was a good place for people of all types of Asians, whether you're Indian or Pakistani or Bangladeshi, or even if you're not Asian, actually, like people that were married to Asian people really enjoyed the group. People that were a bit isolated from the community because they'd moved into kind of boony land somewhere, like really rural village that that didn't have access to a lot of Asian stuff. And then things like deliveries of spices and all that really came into their own. I think it was just one of those things that people needed in their lives, and there was a lot of kind of community spirit. I mean, there still is. And with RecommendAsian, particularly from the kind of practical, like what lipstick is good and what recipe can I use for if I want to make something, it then turned a little corner and it was like quite advice seeking. So things like fertility and menopause and like domestic abuse and stuff like that. So it became quite deep, and it was really women supporting women. And I think people invited their friends because they thought this would be useful for them, or they could offer advice, or someone had been in the situation. And it just grew like that, because I think it was just a good place to be for people at that time. And it still is. We seem to have kept the kind of sisterhood.
As the founder, how visible did you have to be, in terms of, did you constantly have to be present, in there so people see you? Basically, was it built around you? Because initially it started off around you and a group of, I don't know, who knows, 219 people, in real life, But it started with you and 219 of your friends, and then it expanded from there. So as it grew, how visible did you need to be as a founder to keep that community spirit going and to keep the business alive?
So at the beginning, you know, I would interact on every post and I would be like highly visible. I wouldn't post a lot because I didn't want people to be sick of me. And I'm a bit of an introvert actually. So I didn't kind of want to overwhelm people with me. And I think the difference maybe between me and a lot of other Facebook groups is actually I didn't have a business when I was working. This was, you know, a friendship circle that kind of grew. I had nothing to sell. And so when I was visible, it was more about asking the community stuff for myself. If I was to post or if I was to comment, like maybe give advice of something that I'd known. And I was like on it. I mean, I remember that one of the first posts was somebody asking which shade of red lipstick was good for Asian skin. And on my lunch break, I went into Debenhams and I tried every single shade of red lipstick so I could give them like a good answer. Like I wanted the quality of my answer to be good and genuine as well. So I was like, Clarence this, or, you know, Mac that, or, you know, and try and just be as positive and nurturing, I suppose, as possible. I think at that stage you're nurturing people in a community and you're being supportive and stuff. And then as it grew, they started supporting each other. So I think now if I'm not there, nobody, I don't think anybody would care. I think they'd be like, all right, well, we'll just get on with it. Because I think when you like, you know what your rules are and what you want, how you want the group to interact, people kind of understand like what you're trying to do, and then they kind of behave the same way as well. Like you attract people like yourself, don't you?
Yeah, it's funny you said you're a bit of an introvert, because I would have thought it was the opposite. You know, I mean, to kind of be the kind of connector and, you know, pull all this together, all the social. I know you do events as well. Hey Gorgeous events, you know, you can tell us about in a minute. But so what were you, so your personality type, as you said, you're more of an introvert. So how does that balance itself with running a community full of people?
So I'm an introvert. Like if I go to a networking meeting, I'm like the shyest person there and I don't really talk. But actually I'm quite good at writing. I mean, you've seen some of the stuff that I've written, and I'm good at that, typing stuff out, and I can, you know, word a message quite nicely. So, and I think when you're kind of behind a keyboard, it's easier to do that. Like, I think, you know, if you go to my groups, I don't really go live very often. If I go live at all, it's usually with somebody. Like if I'm doing an interview or something, I'm not the kind of person that just could like sit there and babble on about myself or, you know, what I'm doing on a live, but I can do it when I'm writing and stuff. So yeah, it's weird, and I think people are often surprised when I say that I'm not that kind of extroverted type of person that could just go into any room and just start to anybody. But I think in this position you build relationships, and those relationships make me confident talking to people and connecting people. Like if somebody comes to me and says, oh, I need like an events company or something, I know exactly who to put them in touch with. So I'm confident in my knowledge, if that makes sense.
It does. And I get that, because I can relate a lot to that. I'm very similar in the same way as well. So put me writing all of that kind of stuff, but put me in a room where I have to talk to people for hours. It's like I'm exhausted after a few conversations. Like, take me home, you know. So yeah, okay. So it starts off with RecommendAsian. That's only women. And then at some point, the men wanted a piece of the action, right?
They did.
We ended up launching ProfessionalAsian. Tell us about that, how that came about.
Yeah, I mean, I think men were like, there are two things that happened. One, they were very grateful. They're like, oh my God, you know, my shelves have been sitting there for like 6 months, and my wife found someone in your group, like a handyman, and everything's done, and I haven't had to do anything. Like the women have just got on with it. They've taken some power, they've made some decisions, and they're just like dealing with stuff that before they'd been waiting for their husbands to sort out. So I had a lot of people saying, oh, it's so great, and my wife's found a cleaner, and she's found a beautician, and she's found that. And so like it was kind of changing people's lives in small ways. And then on the flip side, it was like, well, I want to be in it because I want to, you know, talk about my business, or I want to tell people that I can do this and I can do that, and, you know, I can get some business out of it. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't talk about business in the same way. We talk about life, and then in some parts of your life you need products and services, and that's where it comes into it. But I think there was a lot of comfort that there were no guys in there, so people felt comfortable talking about menstruating and, you know, sex and, you know, kind of girly topics that they wouldn't want kind of guys to see. And then I was like, but I don't think men communicate in the same way as women, and I don't think I'd be able to bring that out in men, to have these conversations that are like kind of deep and, you know, kind of about mental health and stuff. They seem, you know, they might talk to each other, but I don't think that I was the right person to run a forum for men. But I guess the common theme was about the business. So I was like, well, there's a lot of female entrepreneurs. We can support them, and we can have a group for men as well. And then we can kind of make RecommendAsian more about, you know, lifestyle, and ProfessionalAsian more about business. So it kind of worked for me to have somewhere to funnel people to. Yeah, so I mean, then it worked well. And then Hey Gorgeous was almost like an amalgamation of the two in the real world. So we had all these businesses in ProfessionalAsian that did clothes and jewelry and food items and craft items, so much stuff, like so much amazing stuff. And you know, we had these women in ProfessionalAsian that loved to shop, but they wanted to go and see and smell and speak to the business owners and check out the material and try things on, and maybe a bit nervous about doing things online. And so Hey Gorgeous came about as like a big exhibition, I suppose, and that has been going from strength to strength.
Why did you call it Hey Gorgeous?
That wasn't my idea. That was my business partner's idea. I don't know. It just stuck. It wasn't, I guess you don't know what it's going to turn into. I didn't know what it was going to be. And Hey Gorgeous was like, it was about kind of pampering yourself and, you know, feeling good about yourself and everything. And I think that's, we didn't want it to be like particularly Asian. We didn't know what would happen with it. So it was just a nice kind of generic name. We didn't want it to be like an Indian name, you know, because it is about the British Asian culture, I suppose. So yeah, so I can't take credit for it, but I love it.
I do like it. I wonder how the men in your community feel about it, though. Do they go up to each other, Hey Gorgeous, you know?
They do. Like when I go, so I do like an interview on radio, on Leica Radio, and when I do the drive time show with Raj sometimes, just to talk about Hey Gorgeous, and he loves it. He'll be like, Hey Gorgeous, and you know, my dad as well. Whenever I walk into the room, he's like, Hey Gorgeous, that's his greeting. And it's really cute. So yeah, but it makes you feel good. It makes you smile. I think it does what it's supposed to do. And actually more men have started coming to Hey Gorgeous. It was predominantly female before, but guys come and they like it. You know, they find stuff for their house. We've had like, you know, kitchen people in there and builders in there and, you know, audiovisual people in there. And so it's not just about, you know, the women's stuff now. It's like men can find, you know, beauty products for men, like beard oils and stuff like that. They can find clothes for themselves, shoes for themselves. They've got, you know, there's stuff for them as well, and children too. So it's become a bit of a family thing.
Oh, that's so lovely. And you've just mentioned your dad, you know, and, you know, really getting into the spirit of the business. And I think I saw on your Instagram a little while back, you had a picture with your dad and talking about how special he is to you. So it doesn't sound like you had a traditionally cultural Asian upbringing. It sounds like your parents were a bit liberal, or how was that? Or is that me reading too much between the lines?
No. My dad was quite strict, but he, like I said, he was an entrepreneur. He did like import export. He was out of the country a lot, and like it's weird because I always felt like he wasn't around very much, so we didn't have like a close relationship, because when he was here, he was working. If he wasn't working, he was abroad, and then he was like strict as well. He didn't like me wearing makeup and you know, wearing certain clothes and going out too much, and so he was quite traditional. And he wasn't around. And it's only when I got older and I realized especially now, because you work like silly hours and your mind's always switched on, and you do it for your children. You do it because you want to give them a lifestyle. And my dad worked super hard, and we actually had like a very comfortable life. We had a nice house. We had, they had 2 cars. I went to private school. He grafted for everything, and I never appreciated it until I was older and I'd gone through my teens and all the rebellious stages and all that kind of stuff. My mum, when she was little, she had polio. So she actually came to England when she was 11. So this was like in the 1950s, because she needed treatment here, and they couldn't afford to keep kind of going backwards and forwards. So, and my grandparents were in East Africa, in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. And so she stayed here for, I think she didn't go back till she was about 17, 18. And so she stayed in like lodges over the summer holidays and the Christmas holidays and everything. And very, very kind of British. You eat everything on your plate. Everything was regimented and like timed. And she's very like, she will get up in the morning. She has a routine that she has not changed for the last 80 years. 70 years. So she was a little bit more liberal, but I think only because she'd spent so much time in this country, and she'd kind of a little bit anglicized herself as well. And so she was a little bit more kind of understanding and stuff. So I was allowed to get away with a lot more with her.
That's nice. And then of course your late husband was incredibly supportive as well. When did you actually make it to, how long did it take you to get to the place where your RecommendAsian, ProfessionalAsian, and everything that you were doing was able to actually replace your income from your day job, and you were like, I don't ever need to go back to work because this is working? How long did that take?
Probably about 3 years before I could like really, appreciate what I did. I still didn't earn as much as I did in my other job, but it was enough. I could cover my bills. I could have like a decent, lifestyle. And I think in some ways it was a blessing. Things always happen for a reason. And around that time was when Cham started to get really ill. He had kidney problems and his kidneys were failing. And I just think I was in a position where even if I did have a job, I wouldn't have been able to go to work because there was so much needed that I needed to be around for. So, when he got really ill, then I had to kind of look after him. He went on to dialysis. I was like his dialysis nurse when he came home. And I kind of hooked him up to the machine and everything. I would take him to his hospital appointments. He had to have his leg amputated. So I was, at home kind of nursing him, going through like taking him to physio and everything. So I think it was such a blessing having this business, because I could literally take him while I was waiting for him. I could work on my phone. Everything runs on my phone. I could do my emails. I could do my, my Facebook stuff, any Instagram stuff. I could do practically everything on my phone. And so I think that flexibility, with him and then the children and everything, it made the biggest difference in my life. And I don't think I would have been able to hold down a job, or I would have been at work and he would have had to get someone to help him. But he only ever wanted me. He's the opposite of me, because he's an extrovert. Like, he would love it. He loved walking to a room and like meeting people, and like I'd want to be on holiday kind of getting a tan and reading my book, and he'd be wanting to talk to like anyone in the pool. And he was completely different. And because he was like that, I think he wanted to hide a lot of the bad stuff that was happening. I think he never wanted anyone to feel sorry for him. He never kind of, that look that people give you, they're like, oh, he didn't want any pity or anything. He just wanted to kind of, be the strong, vibrant person that he was. And so I think he literally only trusted me to do all this stuff with him. And it gave me the opportunity to be the wife he needed, still bring home some money. And when lockdown happened, honestly, everything went online, and it was, it was really good. for me, because people were like pivoting their businesses, you know, they wanted to market quickly and everything. So it was really good for me. And that's when it kind of, you know, started to come into its own. And last year, you know, I was able to hire a couple of staff, and, you know, my team are amazing.
Yes.
I could put a bit of money into the business and help it grow that way. And then, and then sadly on Christmas Day, we lost him to Christmas Day 2022. So
it was Christmas Day itself?
Yeah, and you know, he was always in and out of hospital, so we never kind of thought anything about this time either. We're like, okay, he'll be out. And like I was saying to him, I was like, you should go to hospital. He was like, I don't want to go to hospital. And I said, you don't want to go to hospital because you don't want to be in hospital over Christmas. I know what you're like. And he loved Christmas. Christmas was it was like his only day off, because he also had his own business. He had a restaurant. It was the only day that the restaurant was closed, and he loved it. But he had a kidney transplant that failed, and so he was due to go back on dialysis. But when you have a transplant, you're on a lot of immunosuppressants, and he got an infection and he just couldn't fight it, and you know, that was that. And the restaurant is in North London, and he had loads and loads of customers that like knew him really well. He had very good relationships with them, and I guess he was like, he knew loads of people, and then because of my business, I knew loads of people. And so I think that was hard, because word had started, like, I didn't want people that I guess I had, you know, such good relationships with, and so did he, to find out from anybody other than me. You know, like, I didn't want it to be like all over social media without me kind of having my say to kind of just say, you know, thank you to everybody who like kind of supported him over the years and everything. And like, it's weird, because when you're kind of more in the public eye, I guess your first thought goes to, okay, what is everyone in my community going to think? You know, what they're going to say and everything. And I built such good relationships with them that, like, I'm not a stranger anymore. I wanted them to hear from me. Like, you build really good connections, even though it's a business. Like people become your friends. Yeah. So I mean, and then I was like, oh, but I don't want to ruin people's Christmas either, because it's sad news on Christmas Day as well. But, you know, it had already started going out on like WhatsApp groups and stuff like that. So, okay, let's just let everyone know that, you know, he's passed on, and he's at peace, and he's not in pain anymore. And then
how did you do that? Did you put out a post on your Facebook group, social media, that kind of thing?
Not my groups. I put it on my personal Facebook, because that was like, you know, mine, I suppose. So I put it on my personal that day, and then I think I put it on the groups the next day. And the amount of support, I literally got thousands and thousands of messages, like so many. And like it was phenomenal. And I think that kind of gives you a sense of like people kind of have got you. You know, there's so many prayers, so many, you know, good wishes, you know, for him to rest in peace, and to, you know, and for me to be strong. And there was just so much love and support around me that it was phenomenal. I can't even describe it. It was amazing. And I think that kind of gave me a lot of strength as well. And then
did you feel like you had to be strong for your public face? Let's just put it that way.
No, I didn't. I was very much, I'm just going to feel what I feel. And like, I don't, when you lose someone, you know, people say, be strong. And there are times that you don't want to be strong. You just want to cry, right? You just want to grieve. And I think it's really important to grieve. Like, I think my son obviously felt like he had to kind of step up and be the man of the house. And I think he held it all in because he felt he had to be strong. And then I think about 3 months afterwards, he got really upset and it hit him really hard. Whereas me and my daughter would just, like, if we wanted to cry, we'd just have a big old cry. And we'd get it out of the system for the time being. and just deal with it differently. But I think I didn't feel like I had to be anything other than I was, but I did kind of report in, I suppose. I felt like so many people were kind of, sending me so much love, and they were obviously going to be a bit worried about me or concerned, or, feel like, I wonder how she's doing, that I felt like I should, engage with them to say, look, this is what I'm going through. And I think the other thing particularly about recommendation and stuff, is I really think that we need to talk about things that people don't talk about. And we've always done that. We're okay with talking about things like fertility and menopause and things that were a bit hush hush and taboo. And I didn't want grief to be like a taboo. I didn't want people to like not talk about it, because I think it really helped me to talk about it. The more I talked about it, the more it helped me and it helped other people, because everyone just kind of keeps it to themselves. So I did share a lot of my journey and what I was feeling, and how it felt, and getting ready for his funeral, and how it felt, kind of being on my own. And there's still so much like I have to say, because like you think about it every day, and while I'm doing my work and doing the exhibitions, and I'm keeping myself really busy, I think if I wasn't busy, I don't know what kind of state I would be in. But I feel like he was the one that supported me in this journey, and having my own business helped him when he was alive, because I could be there, but when in his death, it helps me because it gives me something to focus on, and I love it. Like, I really enjoy it. Like, I wouldn't have carried on if I didn't like have a passion for it. And like, it's not, I think when you love something, it's not kind of like work. It's just, apart from like doing the accounts and the admin and all that kind of stuff, I get to meet so many different people. Every single day I get to interact with people. I get to see businesses grow. I get to see, how they post, and like an insight into them. And like, for me, it's all really interesting, and it's fun. And I get to meet these incredible people behind these businesses, and and I hear their stories as well. And they're not all like rosy. There's lots of women that have started businesses after they've got kind of empty nest syndrome, and the kids have grown up and they're like in their 40s and stuff, or they want to change career, or they've got a side hustle that they're making like into their main income stream, and they're studying, and they're going to courses, and they're learning stuff, and they're teaching stuff, and it's just like they're all queens. As far as I'm concerned, they're all queens. And I get to spend every day with people that are doing incredible things,
which is amazing. Yeah
how
it
often
is
to do that, right?
Yeah, it is totally amazing. And like you said, that so it's like the community's kind of become your extended family, which has helped you through this whole period, of losing your husband. And how did you return to? It's probably not the correct term, because it's not going to be business as usual. But how did you return to business as usual after Sham's death, and how soon did you do that?
So it was Christmas Day, obviously, so nobody was really working at that time. So New Year, I think, so I gave myself some time. The funeral was in the New Year. And actually, we had a Hey Gorgeous schedule. And Hey Gorgeous is a really expensive exhibition to put on, because we have a massive hall. Like, we have 100 exhibitors. So you can imagine the size. All our deposits had gone down. Everything, was in motion. And I guess I kind of had no choice as well. Like, I had to do it, because I wasn't gonna let all these people down that had paid their money, or they paid their deposit and stuff, and they were ready to exhibit, and I just wasn't I wasn't going to do it to them. Like, these are their livelihoods as well. This is important for them, so it was important for me. And Sham loved Hey Gorgeous. Like, he would like sit there all day, and he would like greet everybody, and he was it was one of his favorite things, and I know that he was super proud of it as well. So I mean, I think that was easy, because I knew what I was doing. It was I knew a lot of the exhibitors. It it was fine, actually, you know, and it was good for me to focus on something. So it was a few weeks probably. And if I needed time out, I would take time out. If I didn't want to go to work that day, I just, you know, ring the girls and say, sorry, I can't face it today. I need to do a day. You know, or I just say I just work from home and just do things at my own pace. I didn't put any pressure on myself to do anything other than deliver Hey Gorgeous.
And like I read in one of your posts on Instagram, you know, that you find that people generally don't like to talk about the depth of the impact of loss. So when you go through loss, like they're like really going into it because it's uncomfortable for people. Sometimes they don't know what to say, they don't know what not to say. So it's kind of, what has been the depth of the loss for you? I mean, he's clearly is more than just your husband. It's someone who's like your cheerleader as well. What do you miss most about not having him around?
I think you just miss I miss little things. I miss kind of, you know, waking up in the morning with him. You know, I miss the like million phone calls a day that that we used to have. You know, I miss his sense of humor, and like, you know, sometimes I just think, oh, I know what he would say if he was here, or I know what he would do or think, or, you know, he's constantly on my mind. But I also feel like I'm very grateful for the relationship I had. I think I was married before and I was divorced, and that wasn't a happy marriage. And I think it's, you know, there's so many people that have unhappy marriages. And I had, like, we were married for like 8 years. I was with him for 10. And I think those 10 years, you know, he was like my best friend, and he made me laugh and he made me smile. And, you know, I guess I'm just grateful to have had that. It's like one of the things I said in my post is, you know, you don't ask why was he taken away. I ask why was he given to me. And when I think about why he was given to me, he changed my life. You know, he changed my income. He changed my path. He changed, you know, he changed everything about, you know, what I did. And not only did he change me, he enabled me to change other people's lives. And so, like, it's his legacy as well, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without him, without that support, without that go ahead. It wouldn't have happened. So he's given me like so many opportunities, and I don't feel like I don't want to waste them. I want to just carry on. And like, I'm a strong believer in heaven, and I think he's there, and I think his soul is living on. And, you know, when my time will come, then, you know, we'll be together again. And in the meantime, I think he, despite everything he went through, he never gave up on life. Like, he enjoyed every moment, and he enjoyed it on his terms. Like, I'd be like, oh, you know, don't eat that. That's so bad for you, you know. And he's like, look, I'm not going to be here. Like, I think we both knew that he wasn't going to have like a really long life. And he's like, I don't want, you know, I'm not going to be here that long. Let me just enjoy myself. You know, let me go out and, you know, go out with the boys and go on a bender if I want to, you know. And I'll be like, yeah, you do you know, you have to enjoy, you know, the time on this earth is, you know, relatively short, and you have to just enjoy what you do and where you go. And he loved his job, he loved his friends, he loved his Carlsberg, you know, he loved good food, he loved going out to eat, and he just did everything he wanted to on his terms. And I think he would be very upset if he thought that I wasn't living my best life, even if it's not with him. You know, I think he taught me enough to show me that, you know, you need to just be grateful for what you have, and you need to, you know, find a new way of living. You know, it's an adjustment, but it's not an impossible adjustment, you know. So I'm grateful that he was in my life and for everything that he taught me. And like, I feel like, you know, in some ways he's still around, and looking after me. And, you know, that I don't have a choice. When someone dies, you don't have a choice. You don't have to say in it. You know, the only thing you can, you know, control is yourself, and you know, to some extent your mindset. Like, it's very hard because, you know, you've got your heart feeling one way, you've got your head feeling another. And but I guess I just like to, like, even when I have a cry, I just trying to think to myself, oh, you know, but remember all the fun times, remember all the laughs we had, remember what he said about this or what he used to do with that. That kind of fills my heart with joy again. I don't know, it's difficult, and I think everyone sees it differently. But I just think he was in so much pain. His health wasn't good. And I do think that, he would have been quite miserable, in that condition, because they said that he's not going to get better quickly if he does pull through this. I think he would have just been, honestly, I think knowing him, he would rather have just been at peace and be free. Yeah, at least that's what I'm hoping, that he feels free and he feels at peace and he can like run around and he's got his legs and he's got his kidneys and he might have even grown his hair back. Who knows? But he can, he's just, doing him up there, knocking about with, my grandparents and his grandparents and and I also believe that, like, in the context of eternity, our lives here are very short, and if he's got eternity in heaven, then that's what I wish him.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's really lovely the way you describe what you two had and the perspective that you're sharing about. It's not what you've lost, but what you had the opportunity to gain while he was with you. And I think that's really beautiful to hear, So I think as we're kind of rounding this up, I'm curious to know kind of, how do you feel that you've grown as a person through your business, from the person who started the business, not quite knowing about entrepreneurship and what all that is about, to who you are today. And then also through this period of loss that you've been through, that you're going through, kind of, how have you grown and what have you learned about yourself in both of those processes?
Well, that's a really good question. I think with the business, I think I'm more comfortable being myself. And I say that because I think I'm a kind of a bit of a people pleaser. And during my corporate career, I think I wanted to be like more strategic, more like red rather than green. Those Myers-Briggs tests and everything you get. It's like, you fall into a quadrant, and I never wanted to be in my quadrant. I wanted to be like the powerful position quadrant, what I saw as a powerful position quadrant. And I think when I reflect, I think, RecommendAsian wouldn't have come about and been what it is if I wasn't a people pleaser, if I didn't go that extra mile and go check out all the red lipsticks in Debenhams. Like, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have, I think it's what it's done. It's made me more comfortable being me and proud of things that I was not ashamed of, but I wish were different before. So I think like that, I feel like a lot more that it's okay to be the way you are, because you can always do something with it. And there's reasons people are in different quadrants, because you need different people to kind of balance life in general. And so I think, that was the biggest takeaway for me, that I was like, you know what, I'm okay the way that I am. I don't really need to change. I don't need to be anybody else except myself. And that's quite a big weight off your shoulders when you're constantly striving to be something that you're not. So that's probably the best thing that has come out of all of this for me, is just being able to be me. And like, I'm happy. Like I tell you, I'm an introvert. I'm not ashamed of it. It's the way I am, and I'm okay with it. And obviously you learn a lot about, practical things, social media. I can help a lot of people and advise a lot of people in a way that I couldn't before. And that was just all kind of learning on the job. So, I mean, that's been really good. And I've met some incredible people that I wouldn't have been able to meet. And I think that makes you grow. I think, when they say be around people that, are kind of better than you.
Yes.
And when I say better than me, I'm not saying that, other people are not as good as me. What I'm saying is, like, people have different strengths. Like you are LinkedIn queen, like I bow to you as LinkedIn queen.
I bow to your Facebookness.
There you go. So it's not that I'm better than you or you're better than me. It's that we have different skill sets, and I can learn a lot from you and you can learn a lot from me, and we complement each other like that. And I think, I'm around people that, are very uplifting and have a lot of knowledge about things that I don't know about. And, we learn from each other. And I think that's been amazing, because I think, life is a constant journey of learning. And I don't have time to read. I barely listen to podcasts, but I I learn a lot from the people that I'm surrounded by. And I think that's incredible as well, because it means that you're always like growing as a person. So the growth is continuous and the improvement hopefully is continuous. Obviously, I'm going to listen to your podcast. I don't mean that.
I was going to say, you better listen to this one.
I tend not to listen to myself, to be honest, because it's just one of those things. But I do like listening to people that, have had stories with some substance to them. And it is good. And I find a lot generally out there. People are just fantastic. And then, did you say as a result of?
Yeah, so with your husband's past and coming up to a year kind of thing, and what you've had to process, like how has that changed you as a person? What have you learned about yourself in that process?
Weirdly, when I got divorced, obviously I was a single mum for a while, and that was like a traumatic experience in my life, but it showed me that I could be independent and look after the children and everything. And I think when I lost Sham, I wasn't as scared because I knew I'd been there before. Like, this is different because I didn't want to be there, but I think I had been there, so I was okay because I knew I'd done it before and I could do it again. So I probably didn't have a lot of fears around things that maybe other people that have been with their partners their whole lives have, because they've never been alone. So, and also the children were a bit older, they're more self-sufficient. So I think, but I came to that realization after Sham died that, I'm actually, as awful as it is going through like a bad marriage, I'm actually grateful for that, because I know that I can handle this. And I think when you look at things, with gratitude and stuff, you draw a lot of strength from them too. And I was never grateful for having a rubbish marriage until that point. I was like, I can do this. And I think, how else did I grow? I think I became a lot more visible, weirdly. I think I had something to say about something that not a lot of people talk about, and sharing my experience. And I think the more that I've shared it over the last 10 months, the more feedback I've got that it's so good that you're sharing this. And so, it's made me share more almost, because I've been quite a private person. I don't I talk about stuff on the groups obviously, but when it comes to my feelings and like what I'm going through in my personal life, I didn't really share very much. Like, I think everybody that didn't know me personally but knew me via the groups was quite surprised, because I didn't talk about Sham's health. I didn't talk about any of that. And so like it was a bit of a shock. Like, oh, I didn't know that your husband was so sick. I think it kind of gave me a bit of confidence just to talk about like where I was at and what I was feeling. And the more I talk, the more people seem to like what I say or associate with it, or have been through that journey themselves, and maybe had a different perspective, or didn't feel so alone. And that helping people is my thing. So I just, I'm just really grateful to have the opportunity to have that voice, and it's definitely made me, visible in that respect.
That is awesome. And I can only imagine how you're just gonna go from strength to strength, and in your, as a person and in your business as well, which is really amazing to hear and to see. So as we close this out, what is next for you in terms of what you're up to, and how can we connect with you and plug into what you're doing?
So what's next for me? So I'm busy with Hey Gorgeous. I haven't kind of thought too far ahead, but I've actually decided to freeze December out, not do anything except focus on strategically where am I going next. And so we've got big team stuff going on, and we're going to just kind of focus, because to be honest, I'm not really sure you know, everything has changed so much this year, you know, and then I guess I've been catching up and not really kind of forward planning as much as I should. So I'm just going to, you know, kind of stop work in the kind of sales element and the membership, and just resume that in January, and then spend December really hyper focusing on, right, where are we going to go? What can we do better? What can we do differently? You know, how can we make, you know, businesses pop even more? Spend a bit more time on it, like our Instagram strategy and stuff. So it's RecommendAsian and ProfessionalAsian on Instagram and Facebook. And then I would like to actually try and get out of my comfort zone. So there's a bit of personal development. So I'm doing like a public speaking course with Anila Dami, who's a news presenter, and you know, I'm really looking forward to that. And so doing some kind of personal development as well, because I mean, that's part of being visible as well. I mean, I know when I'm talking to you, I'm like, well, like I know, and that's not a good look for me. This is why I don't watch anything back. Because I'm like,
but you tell great stories and you tell them so well.
Yeah, I could play bingo on the ums and the likes and the you knows. So so I want to try and be more articulate and speak better. And be a bit more confident. And I want to be able to go into a room full of strangers and at least like have the courage to say hello to a few people, instead of just being like, you know, that wallflower that I am. I mean, I'm fine when it's my own event. I can talk to everybody because I know everybody. But when it's somebody else's event, I do feel like I need to just be better at communicating. And you know, and my LinkedIn is terrible, so obviously I'll have to.
Well, you know who to go to for that one.
I do. I'll be running. So I don't have big plans yet. I'm planning to have plans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And I think Hey Gorgeous, it's doing so well. We do it twice a year in Harrow. So the next one is in March, and I like what's happening with it. And so we have a we have what I call a risk pot, which is a little pot of money that we can just take a few risks with, and if we lose it, it's okay. And if it works, then that's obviously even better. But I think, you know, it's a good idea to kind of, obviously you need your income and you need, you know, whatever your basic costs are in doing something, and you want to put a little bit of buy to, you know, invest in your business, maybe at a later stage, or a rainy day fund or whatever. But I think it's good to have a little bit of a risk, you know, risky kind of, shall we try it, shall we not? Okay, let's go and see what happens. So every year we've, you know, put like maybe just like £1,000 into something that we wouldn't normally, like 1,000, like 1,500, and just kind of see what happens. And some things have failed abysmally, and that's okay. And some things have been amazing, which is amazing. So, you know, we're going to try and tweak things every time and see what's going to happen in the next Hey Gorgeous. And we're going to tweak a few things and try a few new things, and hopefully they'll work out. And then I would really like to take it to different parts of the country because it's so popular. We had like 8,000 people over the weekend last time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would really like to be able to take it to like Birmingham or Leicester, or like somewhere in the Midlands, somewhere up north, because I think, you know, there's lots of community people there that would love some of this stuff, like the whole fusion stuff and the innovation that we have, and just some of the beautiful kind of saris and ornaments and, you know, jewelry and stuff like that. So that's what I would really like to do.
Wow, amazing. For someone who's planning to make plans, has quite a few plans, and they all sound fantastic. So I'm definitely rooting for you, and I'll keep an eye out for these events and your posts on social media. So thank you so much for coming on here on Start Being Visible, and for being so open to talk about your journey, to talk about your loss, and, you know, to just kind of talk about where you're going in life. It's been really great to hear from you, Zamiha. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mildred. I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. And it's Instagram. Is that the best place to reach you personally? Because you do some great posts on Instagram. Are you happy for people to follow you there too?
Absolutely. Follow me. We've got 3 profiles. I've got my personal one. I've got the RecommendAsian one and the ProfessionalAsian. Wherever you want to go, you're very welcome to just kind of have a little glimpse into my life.
Brilliant. And we'll do that. We'll share all of those links in the show notes. So thank you, Zamiha, and for joining us today. And thank you so much for listening in to this episode of Start Being Visible. Remember, if you have enjoyed this show, please spread the word. Leave a review, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any of our weekly episodes. We come out every week on a Wednesday. So thank you, and I'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you on Start Being Visible.